So today on the Dig podcast, I am speaking to Tonya Kidd-Beggs, and she is the founder of Stories Parfums. Now, she's going to say it in a much more beautiful way than I do, but it is a brand it's going to blow you away. But she describes it as a brand that transports the mind and transforms emotions. So I was intrigued straight away whenever I was reading all about Tonya and her brand. And Tonya is going to tell us all about how she realized the power of fragrance and how it could heal, release locked memories, transcend personal tragedy, and inspire happiness. So this all came after her trip to France, which she's going to tell us all about today. But how do you go from an idea on a trip to France to a brand that is now stocked all over the world and in stores such as Harvey Nichols, Fenwick, Brown Thomas, and so many more? Well, that's what I'm going to speak to Tonya about today. I'm going to ask her just how this all happened and how do we pitch to the big guys like she did? How do we get noticed? How do we build community while always staying true to our brand values, which is what she has done? And how do we always think outside the box when it comes to things like collaborations and all the things we need to be doing to market our brand? And we're also going to talk about sustainability and just what that means and why it's important for every business to be considering right now. So she's here. Thank you so much, Tonya, for being on the Dig podcast.
Welcome to the Dig podcast. I am your host, Caroline O'Neill, and I love to discuss all things online marketing, managing money, collaborations, making that killer pitch, and developing that product that will make millions, as well as so many other topics that will inspire you in your business. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Dig podcast. It's my absolute privilege to speak to thousands of you each week. Remember, I love to know when you've listened, so screenshot the episode and post on social, tagging me on Dig for Success and Dig Mama, and I will reshare with my audience. I'd also love if you could leave a review for the Dig podcast on whatever your favourite platform is, Apple, Spotify or YouTube. I love to see all your reviews.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Caroline. It's my absolute pleasure to be here.
Oh my God, no, it's my pleasure and a great honor to have you here. And, you know, I have given introduction there and I'm sorry if it actually doesn't do you justice, but I was taking snippets from your website and your social and the chat that we had together as well before the podcast. But, you know, there's nothing like straight from the horse's mouth. So can you tell us, you know, just how did this all start, Tonya, you know, a little bit about your journey kind of to date?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just start at the beginning. I'm mum to 4 kids. I chose to be a stay-at-home mum. And when my children started to get a little bit older, I thought, you know, I need to find something for myself. I want to find a hobby. And that's what I started out to do. And fragrance was always something that really connected me to myself, really connected me to people who meant a lot to me, and even connected me to a grandmother that I had never met before. And I had known her perfume. And I'd grown up feeling that I knew her because of her perfume. So I thought, okay, hobby, what do I want to do? I love luxury beauty. I love niche fragrances, something a bit different. I want to learn how to blend my own fragrance. So I went to Grasse in the south of France, as you do. I just decided to phone some independent perfumers and independent perfumeries. And I thought, you know, I wonder, would they let me come and just blend my own fragrance, learn the basics of perfumery, and I'll come away with my own bespoke fragrance that nobody has, and that I'll be happy. And off I went, and there was no business idea in my mind at this stage. And I went to Grasse in the south of France because it is the hub of the fragrance world. And I started to work with the 3rd oldest perfumery in the world. They said that they normally don't bring people in, but look, why don't you come in and work with our master perfumer and she can teach you the ropes. So off I went to the south of France. And you know, when you have 4 kids and you go off to France on your own, such a joy. And I started just learning how the basics of perfumery. And it was actually what happened to me there in Grasse in the south of France that really had a significant change in my life. So I had trauma in my life when I was 12. My life spiraled out of control for many years after the trauma. When I got to my 20s, I lived a very destructive life and I thought I need to sort this. Went to counselling, very successful, took the root of the trauma. It's an inner healing process, and I felt good, perfectly. The trauma didn't affect me anymore, and I felt perfect in a sense of it didn't affect my life. But I did not have any childhood memories prior to the trauma. It had just been overshadowed by the trauma, and I had accepted that and thought, well, it is what it is. Counselling was so successful. I went on to actually do training in counselling and a counselling practitioner. And I did volunteer with that for a while. But when I went to Grasse in the south of France, I was connected to my childhood memories prior to the trauma. It was so significant. It was like an epiphany. And I literally then left Grasse in the south of France, not with one fragrance, but two, sat on the plane on the way home to Northern Ireland and went, I'm launching a brand. And I arrived home to a husband and 4 kids and said, I am launching a brand. And it had to be luxury. It had to be niche because that's who I am. And that's how it came around. It was all this passion that I needed to tell people my story through what I call the art of perfumery so that they could also experience what I had.
Wow. Oh my goodness. It's powerful even listening to it before it's even turned into a brand yet in our story. But when you were telling me all of this in our conversation for the podcast and I went away and was doing my notes and all, I was like, God, I didn't even tell Tonya this thing that happened to me. And my granny, I did know my granny, very lucky to know her, not like, you didn't know yours, meet yours or whatever. But my granny wore Estee Lauder Beautiful. Right. So that was her perfume that she wore. And I looked after her whenever I was little. When she wasn't well, Mum would have left me down and I would have looked after her. And she actually passed away when I was 12, but I have very strong memories of her. And I always, anytime I would smell that perfume, it reminds me of my grand. And it's not that I particularly I don't wear it myself, but my auntie moved to America, my mummy's sister, and she was coming home to stay with us a few years ago. Now my granny's passed away, over 20 years now, but we were getting her room ready and my mum headed off to the airport with my other auntie and I smelt beautiful.
Wow.
We didn't, and this, like if I told someone the story, they think I'm making it up or it's airy-fairy, but I am not joking you. I smelled my granny in that room that day. Her 3 daughters were going to be there. And when they came back from the hospital, I'm a very grounded person. I don't really say things like that at all. But I said to my mummy, I smelled granny today in our house. And she's like, what? And she thought she loved it. I said that and that granny would be there. But that sense of smell and memories and stories, I get it. I understand. Yeah. So it's amazing, and I can't wait for you to tell everybody else what's happened now.
I know, and it's amazing though, isn't it, how you're transported in an instant, just like that, and to a memory. I love it, really love it.
So the brand, like obviously, so much has happened before we skip to this, but. It is stocked now. The Stories Parfums is stocked in like some of the biggest, stores online and bricks and mortar all over the world. Like I'm saying Harvey Nichols and Fenwick and Brown Thomas because that's probably what this audience will recognize the most. But like, how does that happen, Tonya? Can you give like the people that are listening, the business community, a little bit of insight about like what it takes to pitch to people like that and to actually get the go ahead to be stocked there? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So, well, it took about 5 years to build the brand. So when I went to Grasse, I had this idea and I honestly was driven by passion and drive. And I knew if I wanted to make this successful, I needed to go to London and really introduce the fragrances. I think my naivety, which turned out to be a very positive, I did not know I was entering the most oversaturated category in beauty. And I went to London with 2 little perfume bottles from a laboratory. I had no branding. I had nothing. I knew exactly what I wanted. But unbeknown to me, you're meant to arrive at a PR with the full display. I didn't. I arrived with this little bottles, told them my story, told them my experience. And I said, look, this is what I want to do. And I thought when you went to, coming from Northern Ireland, as you know, everybody knows everybody, and actually is very supportive. And I thought, I'm going to end up in London. Nobody is going to listen to this. But, people were, wow, I know somebody you need to speak to, introduced me to somebody. And then that person introduced me to somebody else. And my biggest investment at that time was spending time there in London, knowing that I did not know this category that I was going into. I knew that what my brand was and I knew what I loved, but I needed to build it. So I did invest in working with consultants in London who knew the business and they knew the beauty world better than I did. And I wasn't afraid to actually be stupid in a meeting. You know what I mean? I had to be a sponge. I had to learn everything from these people. And doors started to open. And I knew very clearly what my product had to look like, the aesthetic of it. I knew what my story was, and I knew that I wanted to get people to connect to their own story through the power of fragrance. So with that in mind, I got the whole brand up and ready. We launched in 2018, direct to consumer on our website. And then in mid 2019, I started making appointments with buyers in London. Obviously, Harvey Nichols, Fortnum & Mason, Fenwick, and that is when doors really did open. I was astounded that people loved my fragrances and saw them very, very unique. I also did a hand and body line as well, which is a standalone product. So having them together, I've only got the two fragrances and the hand and body. And I thought they are not going to want a very small Northern Irish brand in the midst of their perfume halls. And they did. And you make the appointment, you've only 10 or 15 minutes to sit and present your brand. You need to be in my case, I was just very authentic with my story and what it had done to myself and where I wanted to go. And then we launched with Harvey Nichols in late 2019, followed very quickly by Fortnum & Mason and then into Fenwick.
So when I'm listening to that, do you think that all began with the fact you weren't afraid to invest in the people that know at the start? Is that how the kind of connections were built? Because sometimes people, like I know the small businesses that are listening are afraid perhaps to have that expenditure at the start when it does take things like that to grow. Like, do you think what happened at the start that allowed that those doors to open as you talk about?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely do. Even though I went and presented the brand myself, it was never introduced by anybody. I did work with a girl, two girls actually at the very beginning. One really listened to where I wanted to go and grow, and she was in PR before, and what she did was try to bring the right PR people in front of me to walk with me, and that was a huge investment because you're talking consultancy fees. And the other girl I worked with was a consultant in sort of retail and helped you build your brand and the targets and the market and projections, which I had no idea. Honestly, when the door opened, you start to unravel something that you've no idea what you're entering. There's so much of building a brand. But no, people ask me, they say you say things very off the cuff as if it's not a big thing, but I think that's probably just Northern Irish spirit. You just believe in your product, you believe, and what can they say but no? And you talked about Brown Thomas. We've just launched into Brown Thomas into their flagship centre in Dundrum. That was a no at the beginning. So when we first approached them, it was a no. Then it was we went into the pandemic, and then we still kept in contact, and then they came back and they said, look, where we wanted to put you isn't happening for another year, but we're actually opening a flagship store. We want you in our perfumery. So I also believe that a no's not a no. You know what I mean? It just catapults you into something to become more determined. And actually, I have turned down quite a lot of retail, that because I don't want to oversaturate the industry either. I want to be unique. I want to be kept. Of course, we need money. We need to make money. It's a self-financed, independent brand. But yet again, I know that Stories isn't the type of perfume that's maybe going to sit in Boots or sit in, Superdrug. the price point is a lot higher. It won't sell there, and we want to sit in really unique places. So those prestige stores are amazing. To be in there and to be sitting on the shelves is just incredible.
Incredible. Like congratulations. Like it's amazing. And it's fascinating to listen to. And you said something there at the start that I know a lot of people that listen to the podcast struggle with, and thankfully I never have, and it's always stood in my favor. Not being afraid to say that you don't know things,
Yeah.
or that. So like, isn't that so important though? Like for growth as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know who said it, but I remember reading it a long time ago, and it said that you need to build your brand and look at yourself as the most stupidest at the boardroom table, because you need to build people around you that know better, who are going to push you further than what I can. So I honestly, hands up, I'm very, very proud to say that I have self-taught and also surrounded myself with a really group of people that love the brand as passionately as I do and want to see it succeed. We were going up against L'Oreal, we were going to get up against Estee Lauder, the Byredos, the Le Labos, all those amazing, amazing brands. You definitely need the right people around you.
Dig podcast is all about educating my listeners, but it's so important to me that it is also a place to gain exposure. Each week we open up the podcast to brands and business owners to pitch to you guys.
Hi, I'm Adrian and I am the owner of Agribarn. Our shop is based on the Bush Road between the towns of Dungannon and Cullen in County Tyrone. At Agribarn we have taken over 100 years experience in the farming and construction industries and created a much needed shop to service and supply these sectors with the parts and components they need to keep the plant and machinery running smooth and efficient. We specialise in hydraulic hose repair and manufacture. We understand that time is money, so we offer a speedy turnaround on hose repair while you wait, so you and your machine can get back to work as soon as possible. Agribarn also offers some of the leading brands in oils, grease, batteries and service filters at a very affordable price. We have just launched our new Shopify store, so we can offer and supply our products around the world. Check it out at agribarn.co.uk. To keep up with all the latest at Agribarn, follow us on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok.
And also, though, you did say about authenticity and not stepping away from what your actual brand is. And that's what nearly brings the magic to your brand, isn't it? And that's what people nearly sit up and you're not just another fragrance. You have that story. So I guess if business owners are listening, it's finding that magic within your brand to help you stand out is
absolutely.
Yeah. So you definitely do that. But my heart kind of jumped when we were talking and you started this beautiful brand and everything was going well. And then what happened to us all shook all our worlds was, COVID and lockdown. And my God, it was horrendous for so many people. But for the business community as well, it was life-changing for a lot of people. But how did that affect Stories Parfums, and what did you do? Because I know you did some great things during that time, but tell me a wee bit about that time and how you were feeling and what happened.
Yeah, so it was always really important that I would be a founder-led brand, meaning, that I would be the one that be at the forefront, and it would be my voice, it would be my experience that would actually get people to connect to the fragrances. And in doing that, we really did, prior to the pandemic, focus on building a D2C brand. And, but the challenges there are, you're a perfume brand, your niche, your luxury, your price point's quite high compared to other generic fragrances. So how do you get the fragrances into people's hands? So we'd already started looking at sampling opportunities and getting, putting samples on our website and getting those out, and they were redeemable against a larger bottle of the fragrance that they wanted. So that was already running. Then we hit pandemic, and then retail all shut. We grew I can't even remember the percentage, but we grew month on month over the pandemic, which clearly showed us that there was people had that surplus money because they weren't commuting, they weren't having the childcare, etc. They had that extra cash to spend, but they wanted something to make themselves feel good. So we find that we had a really good chance to really put ourselves out there into the the world, so to speak. So we looked at collaborations. We decided that we're very much into masterclasses. So we've always done that. I have a very unique way of connecting with fragrance. I don't focus on ingredients. We focus on how it makes you feel. So we would have always taken those masterclasses out onto the shop floor, into pop-ups, and we had events, VIP, scent club events, etc. That was only just starting when pandemic hit, so we couldn't do that anymore. So we thought, let's take it to Zoom. So we decided that we would seek out like-minded brands that sit well with the olfactory senses. And we worked with a brand called Frejon Frere. So they are a champagne brand. They are part of the Tattinger family. I believe they're the grandsons of the Tattinger family. And they, I can't remember the actual time that I met them, but I met them through somebody else. And we were talking about how you make champagne and how we make fragrance. And we realized there's a real similarity in how it's done. So we thought, gosh, let's do a collaboration together on Zoom, and we will invite VIP people to come. And nobody at that stage was able to visit each other's houses. So families were having birthdays, etc., and they couldn't visit each other. I don't think you were even allowed in the garden at that stage. But so we invited Pixie Lott and her sister.
Let's just wrap that out. So obviously someone along the way had a connection with her, right? Because this is the dream, right? So someone had a connection.
Yes. So we've really built on PR and VIP relations throughout. So that is, so when I talk about investing at the beginning with somebody, that's not a long term. It's always, bring on a consultant, get their information, then I move on. So I did invest at one stage with a fabulous lady in London who does VIP relations. She has and we built a fabulous relationship, and she had the connection with Pixie Lott. So we invited Pixie and anybody that she wanted. We sent the champagne and the fragrances to each one of their houses. So there was about 4 or 5 of us on the Zoom, and we take them through the really unique experience of a masterclass of the connection between champagne and creating champagne, the taste, and also how it smells and how it interacts. And it was absolutely incredible because we had thought, how do we do this? How do we get people to experience it as if you were sitting in front of them? But actually, it worked extremely well. They went through the whole experience of how do you create a champagne. They give us some secrets about how they put it in the ocean to let it mature, etc. Which is quite secretive in the champagne world. And then I took them through the whole process of them connecting to fragrance without concentrating on the ingredients to the end. And it was incredible. So we continued to do that with VIP, and we then continued to do that with our own customers. So we would have done ticketed events where people would have come on, and we did it in Canada as well. So we worked with one of our partners in Canada, and we invited press on board. So it was great.
There's maybe people listening going, well, I don't have a connection with Pixie Lott or anybody like her, but there's a lesson here for everyone listening. It doesn't have to be in the Pixie Lott scale, but there's a collaboration that all businesses can have with other businesses to connect with their customers. And everyone has a VIP customer, so whether it be a celebrity or not, your customer are the most important. So when you're listening to Tonya, I would say try and think about how you can create that magical experience that they did with a champagne brand. My goodness, it's perfect. And try to connect and get some amazing content that way. So I loved hearing all about that, Tonya. I was so excited.
Can I just say also, in terms of getting in touch with people, we are living in this pandemic and coming out of this pandemic we have never been able to be in touch with these people ourselves as much as we can now. So I would say you need to be bold and you can reach out. So we only worked with that lady for a very short time in London, who built up some, gifting and VIP relations with us. We now actually contact people directly via social media. And if you can't get it via there, you can find who their management are and you just go straight to them. So I believe, we don't all have a lot of budget, but, if it's an independent brand and self-financed. So it's like, reach out yourself. We now build all our relationship. We've ambassador network, which we have built up ourselves. Because we just have to reach out and say, look, would you like to try my product? Because if you believe in your product and you get it into their hands, they're going to love it and want to share. So we do not pay for any of in terms of any VIP work. We don't pay anybody for that because their fees are just too crazy. But we hope they'll fall in love with it and then they'll want to do something with us.
Oh, there you go. That's it in a nutshell then. Perfect, because we have sole traders listening. We have, medium-sized businesses, large-sized businesses, and some people are going to feel like, oh, this is not relevant. But look, Tonya's just said, reach out and start that relationship. Yeah. So amazing to hear that it's achievable for us all. So watch out, Pixie, right? For everybody listening. But yeah, so, the Zoom classes, you didn't let lockdown, I'm sure threw you at the start, but you guys pushed on and grew the brand through it and grew month on month, which is a brilliant success story to hear. And it's heartwarming actually as well, just when I think about other people's experiences. So, can we talk about, you and I talked before we came on about this issue, this topic of sustainability. So this is why you guys stand out, your brand stands out for sure. And it's a topic I think that smaller business owners particularly are afraid of, first of all, because they don't know how to navigate through it and maybe don't understand. So can you talk to us about that and why that's important and what you guys have done? Because I think it's so important.
Absolutely. So, this all came from my kids, really, because I really wanted to build a brand that wouldn't just simply survive, but would absolutely thrive. We want the world to survive, not survive. We want it to thrive. We want it to be a place for the next generation that we can leave a legacy. And my kids, that became very important to them, in what they do in their day to day. So I thought, I need to do this. I want to do this for them. And it was getting to the stage where we were starting to need to replenish. And I thought, well, I'm going to look at how I can actually become more sustainable. So we started off with our perfumes and we looked at the packaging. And I thought, right, this is where the problem arises when you're a self-financed small brand, because you need your supply chain to be, everybody has to have the same ethos as yourself. And we really started to search. We wanted to remove all plastic from our perfume. We don't use cellophane wrap in anything. And I thought, the luxury beauty actually aren't really moving in this area, especially not in niche fragrance at the moment. So I thought, how are we going to make a difference? But we did. We changed our caps. We took away our plastic caps. We replaced them with what's called a Zamac. It's a mix of an aluminium, of copper, magnesium. It's 100% recyclable. It's heavy, luxurious, and it's beautifully embossed. And what we can do is actually recycle those. So if people send them back to us with the bottle, they can get money off their next purchase. But also our labels as well were paper labels. And we know cutting down trees, etc., is not sustainable. So we decided to remove them and we changed them to rock paper. So that is from marble mining waste. So the waste that comes from the marble mining is put into this paper, and we have them on our perfume bottles as well. Our bottles are all refillable. So the idea is we are a fine fragrance brand, and there isn't much change. And we've been told by our retailers that people aren't pushing like this. So we've really positioned ourselves as forerunners of this new niche, which is bringing luxury sustainability together and being able to do so. And we have been able to do so. We got an award with the Marie Claire UK Sustainability Awards. We received highly commended for our efforts because there's just not many people that are making these changes. The refillable bottles, we hope to have refill stations, even though that's a fine fragrance. You do find the refillable places now popping up all over the place, but not in the luxury area. So we do hope to get to that stage, but at the moment you can buy your 100ml. We've 3 size bottles with 30ml and 15. The 30ml and the 15 are fabulous for travel, putting in your handbag, etc. So what we tend to do is we will supply with a pipette, which is a little perfumery pipette, and you can buy your 100ml to keep at home, and then you can keep refilling your small bottles. And that way it becomes a lot more, you don't have to keep rebuying the 30ml or the 15ml anymore. You can just keep refilling them up from your larger bottle. So yeah, sustainability is hugely important. We're actually in the process of getting positive luxury accreditation. So if that, which is very, very in-depth, they take everything, every aspect of your business and look at it, and they will advise, you have to score at a certain level to receive the accreditation, and then you will get the butterfly mark. It's only for the luxury world, and then once we receive that, they will keep reviewing your business year on year to make sure that you're making the changes. So that is important. And also we're in the early stages of looking to become a B Corp as well. So that's the very core of the brand, is sustainability.
Wow. And there's people that, like, obviously because of e-commerce and the whole way digital has went, like there's so many e-commerce brands listening that are posting things out and packaging, and probably I don't know, haven't considered just what effect this is having on the environment, the world, and haven't really thought about sustainability within their brand. Yeah. So I get it's so important for every business to try and address this in some way, to do their bit, right?
Absolutely. And all you have to do is start small. And that is what the whole Marie Claire UK was. Start small steps. It doesn't need, because we now will have, we're going to replenish our hand and body. We will look at, it is a recyclable plastic, but we want to remove that, and we want to actually now, so we have, it's a big job, a big project to do, but you do it in tiny steps and we'll all achieve something.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. And I can't wait to see now. I think it's going to be a massive conversation and a massive topic moving forward for businesses. So there's definitely loads of food for thought there. Thank you for letting us in on all those different things that you're doing. Because I think it's important that other businesses see, people doing, especially people in your industry, doing things like this. It can inspire them. So, I can see all of these things you're doing, and I know that about the strong community that because of you doing all this, that the community that you've built up, how important is that community for you and the growth of your brand, Tonya, and how, is there any advice you could give to business owners about building that community? I know we kind of touched on bits as you go through, but what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it is really important to me, especially because of my experience with trauma. The type of trauma that I experienced made me feel silenced for many, many years, and I did not share my experience, and I grew up feeling, not great. Didn't feel I had a story. Didn't feel that my life was really worth much, and that was one thing that was important in the brand, because this brand was born out of my own story, and it's all about storytelling. It's all about listening to other people's stories, and I want to give our platforms a place for people to come and share their stories and share them without fear. That's hugely important to me. So I have always, right from the beginning, it's a very two-way communication process, building that community of people who are, we have been doing over the last couple of years, here and there, stories hosts where we invite people to come and speak to me and share their story. But we're really ramping it up now over this next year, and we are inviting people to come on, share their story, share their scent story, because we all, I grew up not feeling I had a story. And then when I really went through all the process of, getting my life sorted out and then launching this brand, and I started sharing my story, people were like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And then I thought, gosh, I do have a story. So I need, you know what I mean? And so that's why it kind of all grew. That's why Stories is called Stories. But it is hugely important that community is around me, that it's come share your story. We want to hear, how you've done what you've done, a bit what you're doing with me here, allowing me to share my story. And then also I am hugely passionate about female entrepreneurs. So as you are, and I just love to bring them together with no agenda. And we've started doing a breakfast, which just casually started, and it started to take off. And we started off with one in Northern Ireland, and we just had one a few weeks ago in Fortnum and Mason in London, and then our next one will be down south of Ireland. So we really want to build up a network of women that are actually just come, no agenda, but just come and share your story, build relationship. I mean, I tell there's no secrets here. If I can help anybody build a brand or experience something, I would share that. And that's what I want to do, just really support people on their journey. I'm also part of a group of women called the Women's Chapter.
Okay.
And it's based in London, but it's worldwide, or nationwide. And again, it's a member, you pay for membership, but it's extremely supportive. All indie brands, all brands of different, different areas. It's not all just beauty. And another one I'm involved with is CEW, which is Cosmetic Executive Women. And again, it's a membership, but it's a little bit like women in, women in business, and that it's just, really building your network. But then again, I want to build my community of fragrance lovers, because I want people to experience what I have, and I want them to, you will come away, when I take people through masterclasses, they come away and they go, gosh, I never, ever have looked at my sense of smell like that. And you smell everything different, everything. It's not just perfume, and it's not about just buying stories. It's about actually connecting to your sense of smell through well-being. How does it make me feel? What am I smelling? And exploring that. So that is important to me as well, to build that community.
Oh my God. I'm sitting here, I'm just listening to every word. And I guess, there's two different communities there you've talked about, like the business one that you're staying in touch with and connected to, which help you through your business, and then your actual customer audience but they've all got the same kind of theme throughout of stories, which is what your brand. That's amazing. And what you said about people not having a story, and, that makes you emotional when you hear that. You're like, oh my God, everyone's story is valid and important.
Totally.
Some more tragic than others, and some more happier than others, but it's still a story at the end of the day. And it makes your brand even more now so, heartfelt, and I can see why that community has gathered around you in both aspects, Tonya, because like you have told us today, all the little tips and secrets, and as you say, you don't hold back, and you want to support people in business, and that openness in business is what makes people like you stand out. So thank you for doing that today on the Dig podcast. And there's so many people going to be listening, like their fire in their belly after listening to that. But I'm sure there have been challenges. I'm sure, like all of us, what is there anything you can share with us? Like, what's been your greatest challenge, perhaps, or any challenge?
Yeah. So I think, well, a couple of things are the supply chain is one, becoming sustainable, and then and finance as well, because it is an independently funded brand at the moment. We have been exploring getting ready for investment and getting an investment deck ready. And if I want to scale the brand up, how will that look without having to give too much of your company away? And that probably is my biggest challenge, is I really want to scale the brand. I've more fragrances ready to go, with Brexit and with the pandemic, and then budgets. That really holds things back. And then we know that PR and press, they all want new product, so that is an awful challenge, because it's very stop and start. We are moving into home fragrance, and and making sure all those components are sustainable. And then the supply chain goes right the way back to the forest, to the trees, to everything. And then when you want to scale up, people want to just you buy in bulk and then it becomes cheaper, but we have to make sure that supply chain is all. And I think on a personal level, being a mom to 4, now mine are all, growing up. My youngest 2 are twins, and they're 15, who still, definitely need me around. And you're still full-time mom. You don't go from being a stay-at-home full-time mom to like not being. So that is a challenge. And I definitely feel that leadership in any form, it can be very lonely at times. And I feel that can be quite a challenge. You build teams around you, you build groups. But one of the reasons that I moved into this women entrepreneur, and what I have found in our breakfast, is we all feel the same. It can become a very, very lonely place, especially when it's a small independent brand, when you're really trying to push out there.
Oh my God, absolutely. And we all feel it, you're right. And I suppose some people are afraid to say it, but the fear leaves you when you do say it out loud. I think, you feel so supported because everyone comes out of the woodwork and they're like, I feel like this, I feel like this. So again, so good to hear you say it out loud, Tonya, so inspiring. But I found a little bit on your, when I was researching, and I would like to read it out now, and kind of just to bring our podcast to an end with some powerful words, and the themes being running throughout our conversation, so people will get this. But stories make up who we are, and we think that life is richer the more you have to tell. Our fragrances were created by one woman in homage to her stories, but they're just the beginning. As with all good stories, they need a middle and an end. We like to think of it as though we picked up the pen, but now it's up to you to write the rest. What will your story be? So when I'm reading that out, I'm obviously thinking about the business world. This is a business community that's listening. So what will your business story be? It's up to you, I suppose, how that pans out and how you write that. But I just thought that was such a powerful piece. I think I might have got it from your website. I'm not sure, maybe LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I know people are going to be intrigued. Tonya, how can they find out more, about you and your brand and follow? Where can we see all this going on?
Yeah. So we're across all of our socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can follow the Stories one at Stories Parfums, just Stories Parfums, that's it. Now, when we say Parfums, it is the French way, Parfums, because sometimes then people get confused. They're putting in Stories Perfumes, but it's done in the French way. And then you can follow me personally on Tonya, which is TONYA_stories_parfums. And so that is my personal professional one, and anybody can contact me there. I am so contactable. I answer everything. And then you can get us on storiesparfums.com.
Wow, oh my goodness. What a conversation. Could talk to you all day. I hope this isn't the last time that we connect, because you're absolutely amazing and so open, which is what we love on the Dig podcast, not afraid to tell us how to do things. So thank you, and good luck with everything over the next few months and years. We can't wait to see everything that you do. Thanks for being on the Dig podcast, Tonya.
Oh, Caroline, thank you so much for having me. It's been my absolute pleasure. And yes, let's get a coffee.
Remember, if you do listen to an episode, screenshot it and share it on social. Remember to tag me so that I see it and I can reshare on my platform. I love to see everyone tuning in each week. It has been an honour to be your host. I look forward to our next episode.